The proper management of blood sugar is important for many different disease and non-disease states. This video is the first in a series that discusses the glycemic index and glycemic load. The glycemic index is a numerically based tool that can be helpful in the effort to manage blood glucose. The glycemic index is a value assigned to foods based upon how slowly or how quickly those foods will cause increases in blood glucose levels. Pure glucose, whose value is set at 100, is typically used as the reference value since it is readily absorbed and has virtually an immediate impact on blood sugar levels. Food values are then determined based upon this reference value and are scaled from the minimum of 0 to the maximum of 100, with lower values indicating a slower impact and the higher numbers representing a very rapid response. Please note that there may be slight variations to food index values depending upon the agency that assembles the data. As examples, white bread has an index value of 70. This indicates that the carbohydrates found in white bread are digested and absorbed rapidly, having the ability to raise blood glucose quickly. Notice how white bread causes a similar spike in blood sugar as compared to glucose and then also drops quickly. Peanuts, on the other hand, have an index value of 13. This indicates that the carbohydrates found in peanuts are digested slowly, raising blood glucose very gradually. Notice on the graph how the peanuts affect blood sugar at a very slow rate in the beginning and then leveling off, maintaining a steady state, and then once again gradually descending. This is a great example of a food product that has a low impact on blood sugar. The GI or glycemic index values are relative depending upon the food used as the reference value. Some glycemic indexes use white bread as the reference value since it is a commonly consumed food as compared to pure glucose. If this is the case, then white bread is set to 100 and all food index values are relative to white bread. Providing another example, remembering that the index values are relative to the reference value. Since all foods are now weighed against white bread has a value of 100. Its effect on blood sugar remains the same, so its graph does not change. The same goes for peanuts. Its index value would increase maybe up to 20 since its value is relative to white bread, but the way it affects blood sugar does not change, so its graph also remains the same. But what about a food like watermelon? When compared to white bread, its index value is 111. That means that the carbohydrates it contains will raise blood sugar faster than white bread, as well as falling faster. With white bread set at 100, watermelon's value needs to be higher to indicate a faster response, so it is set to about 111. If we were to put glucose on here, but keep white bread as the reference value, glucose would have a higher number, maybe up to 120 or so. But the way it affects blood sugar still remains the same, so the graph itself does not change. So if glucose is the reference food, which is the most common, GI values should be between 0 and 100. If white bread is the reference food, then values can exceed 100. The point is not to get hung up on a particular number for a specific food product, but to understand how that number fits in based upon the reference item and how fast that food product will increase blood sugar numbers. Wrapping up, the glycemic index is a numerical system that labels foods based upon the speed at which they will affect blood sugar. Values given are relative to a reference food, which is most typically glucose, but other foods such as white bread are sometimes used. The higher the GI or glycemic index value a food is given, the faster the food will affect blood sugar when it is consumed. With glucose as a reference, foods labeled 70 and above are considered high glycemic foods, labeled 56 to 69 are considered moderate, and those 55 and below are considered low glycemic foods.